Hi, do you remember libraries?
What are you doing?
You said I could do the opening for this Library of Congress episode.
Maybe I should take that job back over. You kind of got off to a weird start.
Are you sure? I have a really good joke about how people in Congress don't read, so why do they need their own library anyway?
Okay, what's the joke?
That was pretty much it.
Great. I'm glad we were able to fit that in. In today's video, we are back in the capital city of the United States, Washington, D.C., and we're going to take you along on a visit to one of my favorite D.C. points of interest, the Library of Congress. Created back in 1800 and opening with a collection of 740 books and a few maps that were considered useful to legislators, this is the official research library of the United States Congress.
Really, it's the research library for congressional aides, because, those members of Congress, they don't really...
That'll do. Today we are touring the Jefferson Building of the library. Located across the street from the Capitol building, this is one of the 4 Library of Congress buildings. Of the 4, this is the one that is regularly open for public tours. Until this building opened in 1897, the Library of Congress was actually located inside the Capitol building. As you pass security and enter on the first floor, you see the Great Hall, a 2-story grand entrance room with high vaulted ceilings. The ceilings of the Great Hall and the wings that surround it on all sides include stained glass skylights, tile mosaics, paintings, and the names of famous authors or thinkers such as Homer, Aristotle, Moses, and Shakespeare. There are statues and carvings throughout the hall representing knowledge and invention, as well as various arts, sciences, and trades. Nearly 50 painters and sculptors worked on beautifully enhancing the Great Hall in preparation for its opening. On the second floor of the Great Hall, the walls are decorated with notable quotes about knowledge, wisdom, and literature.
Also on the second floor of the Great Hall is a stairway to the observation deck of the Library of Congress main reading room. The stairway is decorated with a painting of Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom and learning. And once you get out to the overlook, you get a nice view down into the reading room. You may remember the Library of Congress's main reading room from the time Nicolas Cage searched for the Book of Secrets in the film National Treasure 2. The alcoves in this room are home to about 80,000 books. That is a very small percentage, though, of the library's collection of 173 million items that are stored across its 4 buildings. Around the second floor of the main reading room are 16 bronze statues of some of the great artists, authors, and thinkers of history, including Beethoven, Michelangelo, Columbus, Plato, Sir Isaac Newton, Moses, and the Apostle Paul. The ceiling mural in the main reading room features 12 seated figures representing countries or cultures that contributed significantly to Western civilization. Egypt, for example, represents the invention of the written word. America in the mural represents scientific advances. If the figure for America looks a bit familiar, that is because the artist based that figure on the appearance of Abraham Lincoln.
You don't have to be a member of Congress to research here. Anyone 16 years of age or older can apply for a reader's card, which allows you to use the library's general collection that's housed in the library's reading rooms for unlimited research. If you're enjoying this tour, please click the like button to help our video gain a larger audience. We appreciate your support. This building of the library is named after Thomas Jefferson for good reason. As mentioned, the library was originally kept in the Capitol building. During the War of 1812, British troops set fire to the White House and the Capitol building, and the entire collection of books went up in flames. Former President Thomas Jefferson had a personal library collection of over 6,000 titles, and he sold that collection to Congress to kickstart their new library. There's an exhibit on that topic in the library where you can see the Jefferson book collection.
You can pause the video to read more about the display of this collection, but for those in Congress, I will summarize. This display is a recreation of Jefferson's Library that includes about 2,000 of the original library of more than 6,000 books. There was another fire at the Library of Congress in 1851, and that second fire destroyed about 2/3 of Jefferson's collection. The original books from Jefferson's Library are marked with a green ribbon. Books that were purchased to replace Jefferson's books when this display was created have a gold ribbon. Books that were already in the Library of Congress that are identical to Jefferson's original missing books have no ribbon at all. And finally, white book boxes are being used as placeholders for books that are missing from the Jefferson collection. The Library of Congress is still actively searching for these books and adds them to the display as they are found. You can also visit the Librarian of Congress's office. It's now used for merely ceremonial purposes, but from 1897 until 1980, the Librarian of Congress worked out of this office.
There's also a fascinating exhibit on the Gutenberg Bible. Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press, and the first book he printed was the Bible in Latin. Until this invention in the 1400s, books were difficult to reproduce, and thus most of the general population didn't need to know how to read. With this invention, books became easier to produce, and as time went on, people could own their own copy of the Bible, which was actually pretty rare before Gutenberg. There were about 180 copies made of the Gutenberg Bible, and less than 50 still exist in the world today. You can see this book in person at the Library of Congress and hear a volunteer explain how this very rare, very expensive book came into their possession. In addition to these permanent exhibits, there are rotating museum exhibits that share pieces from the library's collection. For example, the Library of Congress has over 5 million maps in its collection. You can see some of them in this Mapping a Growing Nation exhibit, which shows how the United States map has changed throughout the country's history.
The Library of Congress also has the country's largest collection of audio recordings, with over 3.5 million musical and spoken word recordings. They also have hundreds of thousands of pieces of sheet music. Some of that's on display in an exhibit about their annual Gershwin Prize for Popular Song. This year's honoree is Joni Mitchell. The Library of Congress also has over 14 million photos in their collection. Some of those are currently on display in their Not an Ostrich exhibit, which showcases the wide variety of subjects in the library's photograph collection, and shows how photography has changed over the years.
The last exhibit we want to share with you is called Join In. This displays items from the library's collection related to the history of voluntary associations in America. This included the history of voluntary religious, social, political, and recreation groups that band together in small clubs or large networks and everything in between. As usual, when we visit museum exhibits, we aren't showing you everything, just enough to give you an idea of what there is to be seen at the Library of Congress. And remember, these last few exhibits are temporary. We have visited multiple times over the years and seen a number of different exhibits. The Jefferson Collection, the Office of the Librarian of Congress, and the Gutenberg Bible exhibits appear to be permanent, as they've always been on display each time we went. Our day in the Library of Congress ends, as usual, in a gift shop. There are a lot of well-known monuments and historic buildings to visit in Washington, D.C., but if you can make time for it, the Library of Congress is a great stop on the trip. In fact, it's one of my very favorite places to visit in the capital city. Admission is free to the Library of Congress, though at the moment, you do need to get a timed entrance reservation on their website. The Jefferson Building is open from Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. There are currently no guided tours, but there are volunteers spread around who are very helpful and can answer your questions. There's also an audio tour on their website that you can listen to on your phone as you walk throughout the building. We'll be back in a few days with more videos from our travels to Washington, D.C., and a bunch of other places too. In the meantime, click on the links at the end of this video to see other places that we've enjoyed in our nation's capital. I'm Alice.
And I'm Jack.
Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can see us the next time we're traveling through.